This is a recap on the Avengers Scratch conspiracy. S.H.I.E.L.D. is revealed in S.H.I.E.L.D. Central Command in St. Louis. After Nick Fay, New Mexico on departure, the Tesseract, an energy well of vague power, has begun. The portal to space opens and the exiled Norse god Loki, Tom Hiddleston, strikes Loki with a strange spear with a glowing blue tip. Loki captures the Tesseract and uses the spear to pillar at several safeguard faculty personalities so that Drs. They drag along with Eric Selvig, Stellan Skarsgård, and expert Clint, Hawkeye, Barton, Jeremy Renner, who help him escape crew security from their positions when the energy flood from the Tesseract undermines the base floor and obliterates it. Loki's narrow search ignores being caught. Because of the assault, Scratch Wrath gives a highly sensitive situation, telling his top specialists Phil Coulson, Clark Gregg, Natasha Romanoff, Scarlett Johansson, and Maria Slope, Kobe Smulders, that they are all the way out of choices. Wrath hauls Romanoff and Coulson out of their individual tasks and sends them to find the legends he wants to go against Loki. Romanoff is found in Eastern Europe questioning suspects, and Coulson pulls her off the task and sends her to find the large person, Bruce Standard, Imprint Ruffalo, also known as the Unimaginable Mass. Pennant has been living in banishment in India, working for an emergency clinic in Calcutta helping debilitated individuals, and enjoys found internal harmony doing as such. Romanoff enlightens Standard concerning the Tesseract and its disastrous capacities. As the world's master on gamma beams, Pennant is their most obvious opportunity to track down the block's area. During a video talk with the World Security Chamber, the bosses who run S.H.I.E.L.D., Fierceness is barbecued about his arrangement to achieve the Vindicator's drive. The WSC are enraged, saying that it's some unacceptable thing to do and these individuals won't ever cooperate collectively. Anger says they have no other choice and this is their main any expectation of overcoming Loki. The bosses hesitantly concur. Steve Rogers, Chris Evans, then again, is moderately simple to find. S.H.I.E.L.D. has been watching him since he was found in the ice despite everything alive. Anger goes to welcome Rogers at his gym where he finds he doesn't rest. Rage lets Rogers know that he will track down an instructions parcel about what's happening back at his loft. Tony Distinct, Robert Downey Jr., is found in another Iron Man defensive layer that has submerged capacities. He is introducing another electrical association that will take his place of business totally off the electrical network, permitting it to become self-supporting. He's welcomed at his office by Pepper Potts, Gwyneth Paltrow, who lets him know that it's night out. Tony maintains that Pepper should know how it feels to be a virtuoso, and after a contention about how much credit she ought to get for thinking of the unmistakable pinnacle thought, night out is off. Coulson shows up, and Tony rapidly and more than once attempts to remove him. Coulson hands Tony a PC with every one of the information on it about all that is going on. Pepper chooses rather to go to Washington, D.C. to get the drafting licenses for the following two structures for unmistakable pinnacle, as it appears Tony has schoolwork to do, and a ton of it. On the plane to the GOT area, a plane carrying warship that can change over completely to a flying plane carrying warship. The transporter takes off. Ready, they are informed that Dr. Selvig and Loki have been followed to Stuttgart, Germany. Roger's most memorable task is to go to Stuttgart to capture Loki and welcome him on board the helicarrier. Loki is at a proper dark tie celebration at a craftsmanship exhibition hall where he is seizing a specialist who harbors the component they need to make the Tesseract work. While Dr. Selvig makes an interruption and Hawkeye kills the men watching the structure, Loki does his arrangement. Outside, he is teaching the regular folks present that they need to bow before him, or disaster will be imminent, and that opportunity is life's incredible falsehood. In any case, one elderly person stands up in rebellion, and Loki gets ready to strike him down. Be that as it may, the killing shot is flawlessly obstructed by the safeguard of Rogers as Skipper America prior to moving to defy the god. As Rogers fights Loki, Tony makes his entry to the tune of AC/DC's Use Deadly Force, with full Iron Man weapons attracted to thump down the god and trying Loki to take action. Loki rapidly gives up when the two legends show up, and keeping in mind that being traveled to the cutting-edge jail on board the helicarrier, the plane experiences a lighting storm. Rogers inquires as to whether he's anxious about lighting, however Loki lets him know not the lightning he's apprehensive about. It follows. Thor, Chris Hemsworth, Loki's stepbrother and the Norse Lord of Thunder, shows up and endeavors to catch Loki so Loki can confront Asgardian equity for his wrongdoings, which will be more viable than Earth's. However, Thor gets into a battle with Rogers and Tony. The battle closes in an impasse. In the end, Loki is taken to the helicarrier and set in a glass cell intended to hold the mass. Wrath makes sense of that in the event that Loki endeavors to escape. Even by simply breaking the glass, a shaft will open underneath him and he'll dive to Earth and conceivably be killed. On board the plane carrying warship, Tony Obvious shows up, and it appears to be the only one of the gathering he truly coexists with as Bruce Flag. While leading trials on Loki's staff, Distinct attempts to irritate Pennant so he can observe Flag's renowned party stunt, Reed. Transforming into the inconceivable mask, Pennant jumps and afterward starts telling about how he's been not able to completely bridle his capacities and that he endured gloom after the mishap. That is the reason he moved to Calcutta, as aiding individuals gives his life meaning. The Vindicators, presently united, contend and consider over how to move toward Loki and the disclosure that Safeguard intends to outfit the Tesseract's ability to foster weapons, a revelation made by Rogers. Coulson lets him know that S.H.I.E.L.D. has set her in their observer security program and that she's in a protected zone in London. The choice was made to deliver weapons with the Tesseract for of discouragement. As the gathering contends, while Obvious and Rogers endeavor to restart the harmed motor. While battling Barton, Romanoff pummels him into a gatekeeper rail, and the hit to the head breaks Loki's brain control. After the mass tumbles from the boat, Thor is fooled into Loki's holding cell by Loki himself, who has recuperated his staff and delivers the cell and permits Thor to fall. Loki is held under control momentarily by Specialist Coulson, but at the same time is deceived by one of Loki's holographic projections. Coulson is betrayed by the genuine Loki. Coulson later shoots Loki with an impact from an unidentified weapon, one that bridles the force of the destroyer. Coulson bites the dust while anger attempts to save his life. Thor escapes from the cell a brief moment before it stirs things up around town. Flag awakens in his human structure subsequent to colliding with an unwanted manufacturing plant. Fierceness utilizes Coulson's evident demise to persuade the Justice Fighters to fill in collectively. Indeed, the gathering's negligible contrasts eclipse their capacity to impart collectively, particularly with Standard presently absent. While in a contention with Rogers, Tony at last sorts out that Loki is a maximum capacity diva, and that he's clearly settled in at the highest point of Unmistakable's office. Natasha tragically shows up after the expected time, similarly as Dr. Selvig has opened the entryway. This releases Loki's military and poop hits the fan. The military is gigantic and they can't all ward them off however much they are entering the world's air. Tony Distinct fortunately appears, as does Bruce Pennant. While battling, Rogers dispatches NYPD police to coordinate residents into the underground passages and sewers. In the interim, the mass crushes, and Tony shows up at Distinct Pinnacle where he endeavors to slow down Loki with a beverage which is utilized to undermine and threaten him. As that is going on, Tony has Jarvis set up a work-in-progress rendition of Iron Man called MK-18 which is contained in a Goliath box coded explicitly for Tony and has progressed weapons capacities. Loki won't collaborate, saying the annihilation will go on however long the residents of Earth don't get that they should be controlled by him. Loki endeavors to assume command over Obvious by utilizing his staff on his heart to control his psyche, yet it bombs thanks to Tony's to some degree handy-dandy curved reactor that keeps him alive. The Avengers rally in defense of New York, yet immediately reach the resolution that they will be overpowered as a large number of influxes of Chitauri dive upon Earth. With assistance from the transformed Barton, Rogers and Thor empty regular people while Dr. Standard changes into the mass and pursues Loki, beating him into accommodation in Tony Distinct's penthouse. Romanoff advances, with a little assistance from the Chitauri, to the gadget that holds the entry open, strategically placed on the top of the Obvious structure, and hits Dr. Selvig over the head, liberating him of Loki's control. Dr. Selvig uncovers that Loki's staff can be utilized to close the entrance. As that is occurring, Mass stands up to Loki, who will not be scared by such a monster. As Rogers trained, Mass crushes Loki into close to obscurity. That permits Romanoff to get the staff and make a beeline for the rooftop to close down the entrance. While Romanoff is getting the entryway, Distinct is getting the edge. In the interim, with Wrath on a telephone call to the committee, Fierceness criticizes the Chamber's choice to send off an atomic rocket at Manhattan. Fierceness has a go at all that could be within reach to prevent the gathering from sending off nukes, in any event, obliterating two planes that are taking off from the helicarrier. Sadly, as he's going to shoot on a third, it moves away and dispatches an atomic weapon. Tony blocks the rocket and he knows precisely where to put it. He flies it into the entrance. While in the entrance, Unmistakable educates Jarvis to attempt Pepper one final time. Sadly, the call bombs as Pepper is on a plane and stuck to the television with other Unmistakable Ventures chiefs. Tony dispatches the nuke at the Chitauri mothership, totally obliterating the intrusion. Every one of the attacking outsiders break down and are delivered futile. Obvious sees the nuke go similarly as he runs out of oxygen and tumbles to what has all the earmarks of being sure destruction. Fortunately, he figures out how to get away from the entryway similarly as Romanoff can effectively close it. When back in the air, it seems to be Tony won't make it, however is saved by the mass thanks to staggering timing. A shocked Distinct, stirred by the mass thunder, offers to take the group out for shawarma, however they choose to secure Loki first. The Vindicators head out in a different direction. Romanoff, Rogers, and Hawkeye return to working for S.H.I.E.L.D., Tony and Pepper are seen revamping Obvious Pinnacle and are chipping away at the following period of the task. Thor accompanies Loki and the Tesseract back to Asgard where Loki will stand different preliminaries for atrocities from both Asgard and the Chitauri. In the meantime, different television news reports recap the occasions encompassing the Justice Fighters, and keeping in mind that they've become overall legends for some for their endeavors in New York. Others are unfortunate and need to realize who will assume a sense of ownership with the demolition. On another video phone call with the World Security Board, Wrath is being saluted, however they additionally barbecue him that now their mystery's out, this gathering is excessively perilous for the world to deal with. Furthermore, Fierceness is happy. What occurred in New York is an admonition. An admonition to all universes that assuming they attempt to go after Earth, S.H.I.E.L.D. is there to protect it. Also, they have recently the group. Rage likewise tells the S.H.I.E.L.D. board that the Vindicators' whereabouts are done being followed. They've procured a time away, however will be called back when required. He likewise lets the committee know that the Tesseract is where nobody on Earth can at any point track down it. In a mid-credits scene, the Chitauri pioneer Different lets his lord know that there is no point in going after Earth, as battling the Vindicators resembles pursuing passing. His lord turns, uncovering himself to be Thanos, an admirer of the exemplification of death, grinning at the opportunity to court her with more death toll. After additional credits, the Avengers are shown eating together in a shawarma joint. The group seems worse for wear and nobody talks.